In this video, I'm going to be talking about all the things I learned being here in Vancouver, British Columbia that I did not know prior to getting here.
If you don't love me, leave me. Told my jeweler one time, freeze me. Put some diamonds where my heart used to be. Racks on racks is all I ever need.
So there's only so much research you can do. It really takes getting here and then living your day-to-day life. That's when you really find out how different things can be. I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, but I spent most of my time working downtown Toronto. So those are the two cities that I will be making comparisons with. But first, pause. If you have not been to this channel before, I do recommend going back and watching the video about how I moved here in 5 days. So I will have it in the description bar down below. Vancouver's expensive. That's a fact. I think if you're Canadian, you already kind of know that, but how expensive is it? So I looked up the stats. I used rentseeker.com, and here's what they said. Downtown Toronto, you're looking at $1,800 for a one-bedroom, probably a condo, maybe an apartment. I don't really know. It didn't get very specific, as opposed to $2,018 for a one-bedroom downtown Vancouver. Now, like I said, I'm from Hamilton, so the stats are $1,300 for a one-bedroom. It's a pretty big difference. I did eventually want to get my own apartment, and I quickly realized that that was not realistic because I'm not going to spend 70% of my income paying for rent. What is the solution to that? All right. First thing, don't rent in the downtown core. You need to move a little bit into the outskirts. So myself, I'm in East Vancouver, borderline Burnaby. I can still get right downtown, 20 minutes on the SkyTrain, not a problem, and my rent has decreased significantly. Also, I don't rent alone. I'm living in a ground level home with 3 roommates, and I do have my private bathroom, and my rent is definitely under $1,000. Matter of fact, it's even under $800. My area is beautiful. I can walk to the SkyTrain in 10 minutes. There's lots of street parking for my vehicle. I can see the mountains on the left and the right. That's on the left and the right outside of my house, and I don't feel like I'm missing out. Speaking of street parking, car insurance is high here as well. And instead of shopping around, you have to stay under one bracket. So the bracket is called ICBC, and it's owned by BCAA, which is pretty much the same thing as CAA in Ontario. Every single driver in British Columbia has an ICBC basic plan. There is no way around that. If you want more coverage, then you can get that through a bank or a private brokerage, but you don't get to choose. So whatever price they quote you, that's what you go with. In Ontario, the situation's totally different. So I was with Intact Insurance. I didn't like the quote they gave me, so I shopped around. My insurance in Ontario was $190 a month, and the quote I got out here in BC was $310 a month. So, solution to that, you either pay it or you don't, you know? Transit system is pretty accessible out here, so I'm gonna move on to that. There are regular buses, SkyTrains, a sea bus, and then a ferry to go from Vancouver over to Victoria. You can get on the bus with your credit card. You just tap, and it gives you a one-time fare for 90 minutes. You can also load a Compass card, which is the same thing as a Presto card in Ontario, and that is about $2.95. That's for the bus, okay? Now, the SkyTrain. It is very quick because it's above traffic, right? However, it does get a little more pricey. The SkyTrain is split up in zones. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little diagram to help explain this a little better. If you are traveling within one zone, your fare is about $3 for an adult. It's cheaper if you're under, I think, 18. so for high school students. But as soon as you move into a second zone, fare goes up by about $1.50. And then if you need to travel to a third zone, you're looking at about $5.25 for a one-way. I mean, you do have 90 minutes to transfer, but let's say somebody who lives in Surrey, BC, works downtown Vancouver, which a lot of people do, they're paying each way. So let's compare this to another city. In Hamilton, the bus fare is, I think, $2.50 if you're using a Presto Pass. In Toronto, $3.25. However, if you work in Stoney Creek and you live in Ancaster, your bus fare doesn't change, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Things might have changed in the last couple of years, but same thing for Toronto. If you work downtown Toronto, imagine paying an extra fare to get out in Scarborough. So here's my solution to that. There are two things you can do to save a little bit of money. One, you can buy a monthly pass, okay? So it would be on your Compass card, you would load it online and pay for the monthly pass. I live right outside of the second zone, so I would get the 2-zone pass. And then anytime that I go outside into a third zone, I have to add an extra $1 on to exit the SkyTrain platform. Second option is taking advantage of the low fare zone times. I don't know, I made that up. It just means that there are times and days where you don't have to pay for the different zones. For example, after 6:30 p.m., the SkyTrain is one zone only, no matter where you're going from. So I used to get off work at 6 o'clock every evening, and I was living a little bit further, so I was actually going into 3 zones. I would walk around a bit. As soon as 6:30 hit, pay for my 1-zone fare. I know it's cheap, but hey, listen, times get rough. On weekends, they're also 1-zone fare, so that's definitely a bonus. Also, I just recently found this out. If you take the bus, no matter where you go, it is a 1-zone, because buses get stuck in traffic and they have tons of stops. But if you're looking to save a little money, the bus is the better option. If taking transit is not for you, let's talk about gas prices. This was probably the biggest shock for me when I first got here. Gas was $1.70 per liter. Now, I understand that there was a little bit of an oil crisis, and so that was an irregular price. But at that exact same time in Ontario, gas was $1.19 per liter. To put this all into perspective, living in Hamilton, I would put $15 in my tank while it's on E, drive downtown Toronto for work, and get there no problem. Out here, tank on E, put $15 in, and the light is still on. So let me tell you how I parked my car, and I've been taking the transit. No shame. Let me tell you right now though, because of the whole coronavirus pandemic, gas is 89 cents per liter. I'm out here filling up my tank for no reason, just because. A little food for thought. Minimum wage out here is 15 cents lower than minimum wage in Ontario. So that's something to also put into perspective. If you were just getting by, just imagine making a little bit less and then trying to survive out here using the same lifestyle. It doesn't work. With that being said, there are a lot of jobs. I haven't had an issue finding employment. The market is always booming out here. So if you are a skilled professional, you have no problem staying above the poverty line out here. But if you come to Vancouver and you're gonna work in retail, no offense to anybody who works in retail, just be advised, you will not be living the same lifestyle you did in Ontario if you don't make different choices, like getting a roommate or parking your car and taking the bus. Okay, groceries. I didn't think groceries were gonna be more expensive here too. In my neighborhood, I have access to 3 different grocery stores, all walking distance away. Those are Safeway, Save On Foods, and Whole Foods. To put these into comparison, you're talking about like Sobeys, Fortino, and Loblaws. Growing up in Hamilton, we definitely did not go into those stores. They weren't affordable. I shopped at Food Basics and No Frills. There's no Food Basics out here, and the closest No Frills is a 19-minute drive away. So what I've been doing is using the Flip app to go to all 3 of those grocery stores and just buy the things that are on sale. And then I found a Walmart that's a 5-minute drive away. So I'll go there for all the things that I didn't think made sense to buy on my list. Yes, this does mean that my grocery shopping now takes 2 days instead of an hour and a half, but it's definitely worth it because I'm not gonna get stuck paying $6.99 for a small pineapple at Save On Foods when I could get it somewhere else for cheaper. Another thing is, most of these stores have rewards cards that are free. All you have to do is provide a little information to give you a card, and then you can earn points or get groceries for cheaper when you swipe them. So we've already talked about how expensive things are. I'm gonna move on. I definitely live a minimalist lifestyle. Back in Hamilton, before buying anything at a store or going to the mall, I would always check Kijiji to see if I could find it lightly used or brand new. So out here, something I learned really quickly is they don't use Kijiji. It's like obsolete. The last time I checked on there was about 6 months ago, and there's like no post. So if you are someone like me who doesn't mind buying things secondhand, you want to use Craigslist, Let Go, or the most popular is Facebook Marketplace. I bought myself a full Magic Bullet set with a juicer for $25, brand new in the box. I literally peeled off all the plastics on it, and that normally goes for like $99 to get the full set. This family literally just bought a more upgraded juicer for Christmas, and they decided to get rid of that one. Bought all of my workout equipment, so my yoga mat, my yoga ball, and a lot of my resistance bands. $5, $5, $5. The good thing about using classified ads is once you're done using things, you can just clean them up and resell them. All right, so something I realize a lot of people talk about is the social scene in Vancouver. Everybody has been saying that it's really difficult to meet people. I have not necessarily had the same experience. However, I will definitely say that the party scene is a little different than what I'm used to. I went out in Vancouver on Granville Street and everybody was wearing flats. And I was a little confused. I did see a few bougie girls wearing heels and nice dresses, but overall, people were just not dressed up, which I guess is pretty cool because it means I don't have to try so hard. I'm out there wobbling on cobblestones in my 4.5-inch heels. Meanwhile, I could have put on a pair of flip-flops. Perfect. But since we are talking about social scenes, it's a perfect segue into my next point, which is that Vancouver is not very culturally diverse. Maybe that's what people mean when they say it's hard to meet new people and that people are really cliquey, because I'm the same way. I like to be around people who I can relate to and I have things in common with. It just makes things so much easier. So out here, when I look around and I realize that there's like no Black people, now it becomes, who do I relate to? Finding another Black girl that shares the same interests as me has been scarce. I've met probably 3, and crazy thing, they weren't even from Vancouver. They just moved here as well. I have worked so many events with like 10,000 people in attendance, and the only other Black person I see is working in the kitchen. So it's easy for me to say this. Let's back this up with some facts. All right, so I'm gonna read out the ethnic demographic in Vancouver. So it says 46.2% European, 27.7% Chinese, 19.5% other Asian ethnicities, 1% Black. All right, let's compare this with Toronto's ethnic demographic. 50.2% European, 10.8% Chinese, but the important number here is the 8.5% Black. Okay, enough complaining. What is the solution to that? So the first thing I did was I created a profile on meetup.com. So I was able to find some cultural groups, and they try to organize picnics, beach days, rollerblading outings, and stuff like that. So it's a great way to be exposed to people outside of your circle. There's also a Facebook group and then a Black in Vancouver group on Instagram. Both of these have been useful with staying in touch and finding out about different events that are more culture-based happening in the Vancouver area. Please understand, it's not about wanting to be around only Black people. You know, it's a personal preference, and perhaps I need to broaden my horizon a little more and start exposing myself to different cultures. I'm working on it. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is pretty much the first thing that everyone brings up when I tell them that I live in Vancouver, BC.
Doesn't it just rain every day there?
I mean, yeah, it definitely rains a lot, but let's talk about how much it rains. So I looked up the weather stats for 2018. In Vancouver, there were 167 days of rain. This doesn't mean it rained all day. It means that there was precipitation on that day. In Toronto for 2018, there were 127 days of rain. That's a pretty big difference. It's more than just the fact that it's raining. The precipitation comes with gray skies, gloomy day, and the absence of the sun. So imagine 40 days of straight rain and little to no sunshine. Definitely opens the door for seasonal depression. However, I try to look at everything in the most positive manner as possible. The coldest it got here last year was negative 7.8 degrees Celsius. The most snow we got was 25.8 centimeters. I use Toronto as an example. The coldest it got last year was negative 23 degrees, and it felt like negative 36 with the wind chill. And with a whopping 92.8 centimeters of snow. That is a huge difference. So you can either be in BC and complain about the rain, or you can be in Ontario and complain about the cold and the snow. I mean, we can't have it all. This is Canada. We have extreme weather conditions. It is what it is. What I did is I went out and I got some pretty decent boots, a trendy raincoat, so I didn't feel like I was just in a plastic bag all day. And I just go about my day as normal. The rain gets to me sometimes, but I mean, when I remind myself the conditions I could be living in, I start to feel a little bit better immediately. That brings me to the end of the video. Thank you so much for staying to the end. Don't forget to like this video, guys. Share it with your friends. It helps me out a lot, and I definitely do appreciate it. Peace, love, prosperity, and see you next time.